Good morning. Welcome to day 2. Look, I figured out the webcam. Something new every day. No, but seriously, I'll probably just keep making these videos with whatever we're going to be doing for that day, and I'll post them to the YouTube. Hopefully you guys were able to see those yesterday, and that way we can go through any information that you're going to need for this class. So here's kind of my plan for the rest of the week. Yesterday we finished the outlines. I went through a few of those, and I'll be going through the rest of them later on this morning. The rough draft's not due until Thursday, so you have a few days to be working on that. And today is going to be one of those designated days. Hopefully you can get a good chunk of that done today. I'm going to wait and give you those chapters from Frankenstein that I promised you. I'm going to wait and do those tomorrow, okay? That'll give you guys a little extra time to work on those rough drafts. And I'm going to be posting everything on Edmodo. I'll go ahead and switch to that. Let me get myself out of the way here. Going to Edmodo, just reminding you that down here on the where it shows you where the upcoming assignments are, you may start to see more information there because I want to start building a calendar. Clicking on my planner. So the planner is completely blank because I haven't made any new assignments, but I want you guys to be able to keep better track, and I want to be able to plan things in advance. So I'm going to start putting those assignments up there a little bit early. That means they may not completely show in the feed of your Edmodo page. You may have to look over there. Let me see if I can get it to go back here. They may show up here under upcoming assignments. Okay, so you need to be really looking for that, or go right here into your planner app on Edmodo and it'll show you those due dates. Okay, I'm going to be working on that today. All right, so today we're going to concentrate on rough drafts. Back to a little bit of Gothic literature tomorrow. So what I want to show you guys today is some example of the commentary that you're going to need to add as you're building the rough draft, because the way we did our outlines, it's just the evidence from our research. That's all we were really organizing. Now you have to go back in the rough draft stage and add in the lead-ins that are required with the direct quotes, and then of course that commentary in between. So I have a couple of examples here. This first little paragraph comes from The Last Kingdom, from our summer reading, and I just kind of color coded it so you could see the difference. The part in green has the evidence from the actual novel, and then the part in red is the explanation, that commentary that we're talking about. So let's take a look. This paragraph is dealing with Uhtred's sense of honor and how it's unwavering to the end. So we build in this sentence for evidence. When faced with the decision to either return to his beloved Vikings or keep his oath to a loathed king, Uhtred knows he must continue to fight for the Saxons because he was sworn to Alfred, a bond as tight as love. All right, so that's a blended quote. You can see that the whole first chunk, the majority of that, that's just context. Okay, that's just the writer placing it within the novel, so everyone who's read the novel actually knows what scene we're talking about. And then, of course, we have the actual direct quote there at the end of the sentence with the parenthetical citation. Now, here in red, we have the commentary part, and this is where the author is making that connection. Okay, we have this little detail from the book, but how is that illustrating Uhtred's sense of honor? Here's the explanation this author gave. Uhtred realizes that his honor matters more than his love for his Viking family. He cares about his reputation and knows that it will be lost forever if he breaks his word. Okay, so that analysis is just one person's interpretation based on their knowledge of Uhtred and Anglo-Saxon culture and their belief system and so forth. This is why Uhtred does what he does and how it shows honor. Guys, that's how commentary works. It's just that analysis and interpretation of the evidence that you've chosen. All right, let's look at another example. Let's go to 1984. All right, so this is a longer paragraph that includes several pieces of evidence. So I did a couple of things for you here. The topic sentence for this paragraph is in red. So let's look at that first. Unlike the party members and proles that surround him, Winston thinks for himself. Okay. So we're talking about how Winston is different from everyone else because he's able to still, form his own thoughts. So everything that you see in that aqua color is the commentary stuff. And you notice you have a little bit of it before you even get to some of the evidence from the book. And that's totally okay. Okay, it's okay to build that commentary before and after, because sometimes that commentary is actually working as transitional stuff that will lead you from one idea to the next. All right, so let's take a look. So we start with, before he even realizes it, he knows that he needs it. All right, they're talking about the diary. You can see in that sentence before. Now here's our evidence sentence. Eventually, the crime progresses when he avoids the telescreens and writes in his diary, "Down with Big Brother." Okay, again, that's one of those blended quotes where the first part of the quote is offering a frame of reference, that context that the reader needs before we get to the quote, "Down with Big Brother." Now, the part in aqua is the interpretation and analysis. How does that event from the novel illustrate Winston's ability to still think for himself? Well, he knows the punishment for thought crime or any kind of rebellion against the government, but he writes the words anyway. Deep down, he senses the wrongness of what the party preaches, and he truly believes that others feel the same. Okay? This time, the author is trying to get inside Winston's head, like based on his behavior, what must he be thinking? All right, then we have a little bit of transitional stuff with context information before we get to the next concrete detail, evidence from the book. Here's another example. At that moment, he realizes that the horrible thing about the 2 minutes of hate was not that one was obliged to act a part, but that it was impossible to avoid joining in. Okay, so those of us who have read the book, we kind of can picture what scene we're talking about here at the beginning of the book. And then in aqua, we again have the interpretation, that commentary stuff. The truth about being impossible to avoid joining in infuriates Winston because he hates the thought of losing control over his own thoughts and feelings. He feels at odd with himself and reality, so he turns that hate against Big Brother. Okay, all that stuff in aqua is out of the author's head. The book never says any of that. We make all of that inference. Okay, this is where we are just interpreting the scene, that particular scene from 1984. Continuing with that same scene, we have another concrete detail about that moment when he shares the glance with O'Brien. And it's a somebody says lead in. The glance in this case says, "I know precisely what you're feeling. I know all about your contempt, your hatred, your disgust, but don't worry, I'm on your side." Okay, that's the direct quote from the actual book. And then we follow it with that commentary. This moment inspires Winston to resist. He cannot buy into the hatred and government propaganda because he does not believe what the government tells them. Okay, so further analysis and explanation of how these particular details fit the topic sentence that Winston can think for himself. Okay, so that's how the commentary stuff works. Hopefully it'll flow pretty quickly. You have a pretty good idea at this point of what your essay is trying to say and what each of those body paragraphs, what idea each of those body paragraphs is trying to develop. So again, what I want you guys to work on today is getting the rough draft written. Okay, from introduction all the way to conclusion, just let the ideas flow, and don't worry too much right now about all the perfect grammar and punctuation and so forth. That's what the revising stage is for. And later on this week, I will give you a revising checklist, and I'll put together another little video about different things to remember as you're working on the rough draft. Okay. So one other thing I do want to remind you of, though, is that lead-in stuff. Okay, you have to have those lead-ins in every one of your direct quotes, just like the examples that I showed you up here today. Most of the ones that we looked at today were blended quotes, but then this last one you have here in yellow is the somebody says. All right, you only need lead-ins for the direct quotes. Okay. If you are paraphrasing a detail from the book or something from your research, you don't need a lead in because it's kind of automatically embedded within your paraphrase. However, direct quotes and paraphrase all get a parenthetical citation. This business, whatever you need over here in parentheses. Okay, because whether it's a direct quote or whether you're putting it in your own words, it came out of the book 1984, or it came out of your secondary research. So you have to be sure to tell your reader, that's me, where all this stuff came from. Okay, all right. So I'm going to, today, after I finish looking at all those outlines, I'm going to be working on your Frankenstein excerpts that I promised you, and I will make that your assignment for tomorrow, although it probably won't be something that you can do in one day. And I'm going to be updating that planner so we can kind of keep track of those due dates. If you have any questions about your rough draft while you're writing today, you need to shoot me an email. You can do it through Edmodo or through my school email. I'm checking each one of them all the time. So hopefully my answers are coming pretty quickly. And I'm happy to do that for you guys. All right. Have a great day and stay healthy.